Whoa, whoa, whoa. Cool. Hey everybody, this is Chris, and today we are heading to Jersey Jack Pinball in New Jersey to have a one-on-one conversation with Jersey Jack himself about the dialed-in pinball machine. This is going to be a lot of fun, so stick around. Blah! That was close.
You've arrived.
My name is Jack Guarnieri, otherwise known as Jersey Jack. That name I had before I started Jersey Jack Pinball. I'm the founder of the company. I'm involved with a lot of things in the company that go on pretty much. It seems like everything all the time. That's pretty cool.
Can you tell us the basic idea and story of Dialed In? Like when you step up to the game, what's this game about?
So, you know, what I always tell people for many years about pinball is, you know, shoot the blinking lights and listen for what it's going to tell you to do.
Yeah.
I mean, on Dialed In, pretty much, you want to hit the QED guy, charge up your phone, and go on the phone, and you want to start modes. You want to get into the game.
If my schedule is interrupted, that mountain won't be the only thing to see me.
You know, somebody asked me, well, am I trying to destroy the city? Or am I trying to save the city? What's going on? And I said, yes, exactly. It's the kind of game it is. You know, it's does it need a complete explanation? The player gets the explanation as they're playing the game, and I think what's happened with it, it's taken a lot longer in time-wise and energy and effort to teach people about the game, where now pretty much everybody gets it. You know, in the beginning when we unveiled the game, people hated the name. It wouldn't have mattered what we called it, right? You know, it's about a cell phone.
Yeah.
I don't like the guy standing there and all of that stuff. You know, when I saw Pac-Man the first time, I didn't know what that was. I thought it was wacky. When I saw Donkey Kong the first time, I thought that was a silly name. It didn't really matter. It's just a great game, and it has a great story. You know, it fits in the disaster themes that Pat and the team have done too. So. I think it's a great game for right now. And I've also said, Chris, you know, that pinball many times, many hundreds of games was always a reflection of what was going on in society. So when you had a lot of games that were bowling or baseball or card games or other kind of games, it was kind of like what was popular in American culture at the time. Certainly today, everybody has a mobile device, a cell phone of some kind. We may be looking at this interview 30 years from now, and people say, "Wow, cell phone, that went away with the Walkman." You know, so, wow, that was something that they had then. You know, so, I guess we'll have captured that snapshot on Dialed In.
Yeah, it does have a lot of wonderful pop culture stuff in today, between the emojis and selfies and stuff that it does.
Yeah, the selfies is a great feature.
Oh yeah, it's great.
Well, maybe you'll see a wall of shame with people tilting also. Who knows?
Did you approach Pat Lawler to create the next game, or did he come to you?
Pat knew that I'd like him to design a game, and I knew that Pat wanted to design a game. It was around August of 2013 that we just got together. You know, you have to remember he was the landlord for the building that we rented in Harvard, Illinois. So he'd be over there fixing the roof or doing some other things in the building as landlords do. And I would be out there, and there would be occasion where we'd bump into each other too. So I think at that stage, we were pretty much on the same frequency without even talking about it, that we wanted to do a game.
That I'm going to be doing an original theme and pinball machine for Jersey Jack Pinball.
Is that something that you would have liked also because you like his designs? So that was, you thought that would bring something to Jersey
Yeah,
Jack?
I mean, it would be real silly if we have a pinball company and we can't have Pat Lawler design a game for us. You know, as an operator, I remember all those great Williams games that he made that really, they made money and people loved playing them and they were a lot of fun. So we wanted to bring that forward and let him do it with new technology and without a lot of boundaries in what he wanted to create.
That was not a nice thing to do.
And the kind of funny thing is, you know, people might have thought, well, you know, he was out of the industry all those years. Certainly he wasn't, you know, just doing nothing. He must have been designing games in his off time, right? And I wasn't under that pretense, and of course that wasn't the case. It wasn't as if like he pulled out a bag and said, well, I designed this game, you can do this. I designed this game, or you can do this game. Sure. He had some ideas, and he told me he had 3 ideas. You know, I have a lot of patience, but I said to Pat, you know what, just tell me your best one first. Let me hear your best one, because I think it would be like trying to do a wine tasting, and you kind of, your palate gets messed up after, or looking at homes, sure. If you're buying a home. Give me your best one, and let's go from there. And he started telling me about it, and you know, halfway through the conversation, maybe even before that, I was like, yeah, this is what we're doing.
Mm-hmm. Before it got too muddled and then went off.
Well, you know, a lot of times people will say about anything, if you have to explain it, people aren't going to get it. And this game required an explanation. You know, you have one and you asked me for my take on what is this game and what do you do with it, you know. That's kind of the difference in a way of doing a license or not doing a license, because it took us about 4 or 5 months to sell 1,000 pre-orders on Dialed In. And it took us 4 or 5 weeks to sell 1,000 pre-orders on Pirates of the Caribbean. People heard Pirates and they said, oh, I want that game, you know, because their imagination went wild. With Dialed In, people went, what is that? I don't know what that is. You know, I have to see that. And I probably traveled in the last year over 100,000 miles all over the world promoting that game. Getting it out, getting it on location, going to places, being at launch parties and everything like that. And people, for the first time, when they played it, you know, they read things about it, they had a preconceived notion, but when they started playing it and they got it, and the geometry and the fun and laughing and all the features, they were like, wow, I need one of these. So it was more of an effort to go out and do it. But it was well worth doing. I'm very happy with it.
Wizard of Oz, Hobbit, now Dialed In. Why the non-licensed theme this time around?
I felt it was time. I mean, you know, there were a lot of risks involved in starting the company, which of course I didn't even think about, you know, because I think if you analyze everything, you get paralysis by analysis kind of thing. And entrepreneurs, the ones I know, have to sell themselves on an idea and just go forward and minimize the bad things and maximize the good things. So when I looked at, you know, we did Wizard of Oz, we did Hobbit, and the next game I said, you know, it should be a non-licensed game, because to me, Pat Lawler and the team, they were the license.
What are some challenges in working with a non-license, and what are some of the positives of working with a non-license?
You know, you have a white piece of paper to work with when you don't have a license. You have to figure it all out. You don't have any movie clips, you don't have any speech, you don't have any story, you don't have any of those assets that you get when you spend money from a studio licensing something. So it doesn't cost less, it probably costs more to do something from complete, you know, zero. But it's a lot more fun, you know, nobody can tell you no. Nobody could say you can't use that image, we don't have the rights to that actor, we don't have the rights to that music. It really gives you a limitless, which is also scary, type of outlook on doing a game.
Wow. That's interesting because I think if you ask people about licensing, they would think that would be more expensive. You know, not thinking about how
there were some licenses in our in our industry for different games where it could be as little as $5 a game to get a movie or something on it, depending on the assets that you want. If you're making a lunchbox and you just need some static images, that's great. You just paste them on there and you're done. In what we do, we go back and forth with the licensor many times because we're creating something, then we need to get legal approval, and then they have an approval process. And there's a lot of work for the licensor in a license like this because it's a living, breathing type of product. So there's a lot involved with it. We don't know what the benefit is until the cake is baked and you start and cut slices from it. You still put your best effort in our case, whether it's a license or it's an original concept.
Mandy, machine assistance by Dialed In. Ready.
I am the Candy 2000 security system.
Shoot the right ramp.
Did you have any input on the design of the game as it went on?
Well, yes, certainly there's input, there's questions, there's suggestions, but ultimately the team needs to take responsibility for that, and they need to take ownership of that.
Is there anything that you can think of that stands out that you contributed on the game that you said, you know what, I think it should have this?
The camera.
The camera, okay.
Oh, absolutely. So back in the day, I remember working for a company, and we were at the amusement show back, maybe it was 1977, way back. And my boss, his name was Heinz, and he said to me, what would be a great thing to put on the game? And I said, yeah, a camera. And he says, exactly, because, he had the Polaroid cameras then. And wouldn't it be great if you had a camera and the picture came out when somebody got a high score? But of course, back in that day, back in the day, so how's the camera going to do that? How does it know to do that? Somebody's going to steal the camera and all that kind of stuff, So I couldn't do it on Wizard of Oz and I couldn't do it on Hobbit, but I had it in my mind that certainly on Dialed In, cameras are a real important part of your phone, and we need to have a camera on the game. I think it really is a surprise to a lot of people when they play it for the first time, especially, and they see it do selfies and they see the picture up there. It's pretty cool.
Oh yeah, I love catching people off guard with
Yeah, and it's pretty cool for the onlookers. Sometimes they can get in the picture, they could photobomb them and they'll be in the picture too, so it's pretty fun.
There's Tim up in the corner. Was the phone itself, was that always part of the game, like from the beginning of the design? And then it kind of, things grew around it?
It was, yeah, it was. As far as I remember, I remember very early drawings that the phone was there. Some things changed. Betty was going to be like a Robbie the Robot kind of thing. And then, I think Pat was looking for a little bit of a different personality on that. And I think that was good. She was like a big road sign and also a road block, basically, when she puts her arm down and diverts the ball. And that was pretty cool. And the QED guy, he's throwback to Roadshow in a way, and some people look at him and looks like the guy from Roadshow kind of thing. And he's the mascot for the electric company, Quantum Electric. So, it's pretty cool that you're hitting him. He's blocking the theater a lot of times, where you can't get your shot into the theater. The theater really, everybody says it's Pinball 2000. It's not a hard thing for people to figure that out.
Shoot the theater.
Coming off a game that had 11 drop targets with Hobbit, this game has no drop targets, right? It has a virtual drop target, virtual drop targets, virtual spinner, and it accomplishes the look and the feel of it in combination with the magnet that's mounted underneath that Quantum Theater. So it's some pretty cool effects that were able to be implemented in that game.
The 3 different models that you have for it, is that something you create? Or do you say, come to me and tell me what you think for 3 different...
look, you're a customer of pinballsales.com for many, many years,
yes.
so you know what we did years ago with all the special edition games and everything like that. in my thought of starting the company, I didn't want to take things off of the play field between games. I wanted the gameplay to all be the same. I didn't want to take fun out of the game. Cosmetic things to the game, maybe some different kind of experience kind of things, like where you see the amazing topper that they created for the CE version of Pirates of the Caribbean. I asked them if they could put water in it. That was a little too much to ask, but it's really great. So people get a choice of colors, and they get a choice of just a little bit of some aesthetical changes to the game, and they respond to that. With Dialed In, one of the ramps is different. It doesn't have lights. On a standard game, we have a lot of operators that are cost conscious. They'd like to spend a little bit less money, so we try to make a model for them and still have a really great experience in the game.
Mm-hmm. That's the standard edition, right?
Yes.
That you call the standard. 'Cause
Yeah.
you have the standard LE and what's the collector's?
Collector edition, right.
Yeah. And how many of each one are there? I think there's...
So on the collector edition of Dialed In, there were 150. On the limited edition, we expect that there'll be about 2,500. And the standard is, I hope it's 2,500. I don't know what the number's at now, but we're building, we have operator orders. We went to the amusement park show, and we got a great response for the game. But actually, most of the operators are buying LEs.
Oh, okay.
I think part of it is that they feel it has a better resale value years to come. I mean, all three models have a shaker motor, which we felt was important because of what the game is. You don't have the Invisiglass on the standard game, so that's $300. But then you have the ramp. It's probably about another $200. The difference of the ramps, so it adds up when you take in the other items. The cityscape is a little bit different on it. You have the powder coating of the metal, all the body armor on the LE is blue, where you have just the stainless steel kind of look on the standard game.
And the standard also has, doesn't the standard have a little flash or something?
The standard actually has something that the LE doesn't have. So the standard has a flash on the top because, I had suggested that a long time ago when I thought about the camera, because I figured on a location, it would get some attention when that's flashing.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Is that something you can retrofit to your LE if you want one?
I think you can. I don't know. We talked about it. I kind of think we dropped the ball on that one. I think we should probably make that available for sale to the LE owners because they don't have it.
Yeah, we don't have it on ours.
Right.
Extra ball.
The game is chock full of gimmicks and gadgets. Are there any stories you can tell about their inclusions, testing, etc. that stands out? You kind of mentioned.
The game kind of starts in one place, and then it morphs through its development process. And a lot of times with Dialed In, it went through a lot of stages where there was an idea to do this or an idea to do that, and then there was the final cut. So like many projects that get iterated, and products that get iterated many different times, Dialed In was no different. The original name of the game was Killer App.
Killer App.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. After a while, the group kind of revisited it, and they came up with a different name for Dialed In because it's kind of a pinball term, kind of like a little different.
Hello, I'm calling from Dialed In Electronics.
My friend was telling me a story about a boat he was buying, and the salesman was telling him, "Yeah, you do this and you dial it right into this, and you do that and dial it in." So
Yeah, that word's used a lot.
it's
More
out there. Yeah, it's out there.
Yeah.
It's like if you bought a red car of a certain model, all of a sudden you see all the other red cars of a certain model. It's out there, but your ears aren't really tuned to it unless it's something you're looking for sometimes.
Is there anything that was on the game throughout the stages that was taken out for a reason that kind of stands
Well,
out?
you know, I think the robot got changed, as I said
robot.
before. Really, not a lot, because I think Pat started with something and he had it in his mind what he wanted to do, and it wasn't a lot of gee, I wish we did X, Y, Z with it. I don't think anybody would say that. I think we got everything on there that we wanted. Yeah.
And of course, the interactivity with the Bluetooth and the phone.
Yeah.
I mean, that's cool too.
Well, that was something that was important to me as well. We had filed paperwork about 6 years ago for a patent for connectivity and pinball redemption. So I thought connecting a mobile device to the game would really be cool, and it could bring some fun to the game and a different experience to the game too. And right now, what we have it doing is you're able to shoot the ball and flip the flippers. I think as we go along, there might be some other functionality added to that. And I think part of it is figuring out what brings players to the game and what makes operators money and what makes people smile. So that's what you got to kind of figure out what you want to do.
Why did you go with standard body versus wide body?
That was Pat's decision. So yeah, the designer, you know, as Eric went through his game, he decided he was making Pirates of the Caribbean a wide body. We came off of 2 wide body games. I don't know that Pat had a conscious part of him that said, I'm not going to do a wide body because we just did 2 wide body games. Or, you know, he had in his mind exactly what he wanted to make. So I like both versions of our games that we make, wide body and standard. They play differently, they feel differently. You know, Pirates is very Wizard of Oz-esque, as there's a lot of stuff on the game. To me, Wizard of Oz would be an exploration, like a stop-and-go kind of game. And I think with Pirates, it's a little faster than that. I don't think the ball, you know, hangs around certain places while, you know, it's being captured by the winged monkey or something like that going on.
Sure.
So we try to vary those things between our models.
Did that add a lot of extra cost because you had to change the size of everything, or did it not really affect much?
Well, I'm sure it affected things somewhere. That would be a better question for our accounting people.
Gotcha.
But listen, you have to make a cabinet. So whether the cabinet is a wide body or standard, you know, I guess there's more wood, right, in a wide body. Your back box is the same. However, Pat dimensionally changed the back box on Dialed In, so it's not the same back box that's on Wizard of Oz or Hobbit. It's a different back box.
Oh, no kidding.
Well, we moved all the electronics from the body into the back box.
Yeah, because it used to be
So,
down here, right? Yeah.
So you had to make the back box a little bit, you know, of a change dimensionally to fit everything in it.
Are there other people that worked on the game that you'd like to mention, like what their contributions were?
Well, I think the team is pretty well known. It's documented on the game.
Sure.
I think if I mention anybody, I'm probably going to leave somebody out.
Sure.
Yeah, you know, it's like one of those award ceremonies things. You know?
Yeah.
Like to thank the Academy and just, you know, let me get off stage. A lot of people that just work on this night and day to get it to happen. It's a big task. You know, you have hundreds of parts, as you know, and you have all these different vendors, and it's a lot of orchestration and a lot of effort that really takes that to tie it all together and make a really great game. If it takes you a year and a half to make the game, or it takes you 2 years or 2.5 years, that train is a moving train. And that line for research and development, for all the time and energy and effort, the programmers, the sound people, the mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, everybody, they, you know, that keeps running.
All one block. Hey, it's only pinball.
Last week, I was in California for some other company business, and it worked out that our distributor there, Pat Choi, had a Dialed In game that was going to Slash. I tagged along on the delivery, And you know, Pat didn't bring a helper, so I was the helper. So I'm putting everything together, which was fine, you know. And I customized all of his all of the things on his game, the photos and everything like that. And when he got home that night, because I didn't see him at his house, he sent me a text that he really thought it was really cool that it was customized. So I think getting into personalizing things and getting into more experience type of things is really cool. You know, if you have an LE kind of game or a CE kind of game, if a customer can put a picture of them in the attract mode like you can do with our games, and it's part of the attract mode. It might be a family picture, it might be, you know, you bought this game for your husband for an anniversary or your wife, whatever it is, or you put, you know, little Sarah on the game, you know, who played high score. Those things are great. If you could put all the language in, you know, on a CE dialed in, you can add more crawl to the newsreel, okay? The airplane flying by, you can have the banner and customize the banner for what it says. So all those little touches, I think, add to that. And I think that's kind of my favorite thing. I mean, I love the game as it is, and I love all the different versions for what they are. But I think the customization really hits home for a lot of customers.
Has it been a really good thing for I mean, you really happy with?
I am. You know, I got an email today, a foreign customer that I met at IAPA ordered 6 dialed-in games today for 6 different amusement centers that he has. So that's really good. I love seeing that. And I think since it's not a license, in a few years, if you wanted to build more, there was demand. I mean, what you were out there, you know, we're building about 15 a day right now. You know, you could go back and build it. You don't have to go to a studio and say, hi, you know, I want to get the license for this again. What do I need to do? What hoop do I have to jump over, kind of thing. It's yours. It's your intellectual property. So that's kind of cool.
Hello?
Is there anything that you want to mention about the game that we didn't cover?
I think it's appreciated as a game without a license after about 18 years. I think the last game Pat did that was not a license, I think was about 18, 17 years ago, more or less, I think, somewhere in that range. So I think that's one thing that'll always stand out about it, that, you know, Pat said it, I think, at the reveal. Jack was a little crazy that, you know, he started the company and he did something more risky by doing a game that wasn't a license. I think Pat, in the beginning, actually figured he was doing a licensed game, you know, so whether he was pleasantly surprised by that or extra challenged by that, I'll never know, because he's a professional and he takes everything in stride and he just creates really great toys, you know, the pinball being the big toy. So I haven't gotten a chance to look back in a rocking chair. When we do interviews like this and conversations like this, you get a little chance to look in the rearview mirror in retrospect. But it's still going on. So, you know, we're still building that game, and I think we're going to sell a lot more of them. And I think it's surprised people because in the beginning they thought this about it, and once they played it, they were like blown away. And that's a really cool thing.
That's a good one.
Dude, you killed selfie mode. Holy crap. Well, I guess that's all I have.
Yeah, cool.
Thank you, Jack. I appreciate it.
Thank you too. Appreciate it.
Perfect. Well, there you have it. Thank you, Jack, for taking the time to talk with us about Dialed In. It was really fun, and thank you to everybody at Jersey Jack Pinball for their amazing hospitality. It was definitely a special time. I hope you guys found something interesting in this video, and until next time, this is Chris saying, keep on flipping. Now, how do I get out of here?